Hi everybody, here's our lesson for today. Today's the 23rd, and we're going to learn about three different shapes: rectangles, rhombuses, and squares, and the special properties that they have. So when it has four right angles, who can tell me what it's called? A rectangle is a quadrilateral with four right angles. So anytime you see four right angles, you know that it's a rectangle. The next one looks like a diamond. My daughter in kindergarten said it was a diamond, and she got marked off because she didn't say it was a rhombus, which I thought was kind of crazy. But you guys are in high school. So in high school, you need to know that it's called a rhombus or a diamond. A rhombus is a quadrilateral with four congruent sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. So all the sides are congruent. It's like a square, but it's been smushed. And so the angles are not all the same. They're not right angles, but the four sides are congruent. And if you put those two together, four right angles and four congruent sides, then you have a square. Says all three of the above figures are parallelograms. They're all parallelograms. So if we look at the rectangle, are the opposite angles congruent? Are both pairs of opposite angles congruent? Aren't all right angles congruent? 90 and 90 and 90 and 90. So this would be a parallelogram because both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. That was one of the properties. In the rectangle, both pairs of opposite angles are congruent because all right angles are congruent. In the rhombus, these sides are congruent, these opposite sides are congruent, and those opposite sides are congruent. So both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. In the rhombus, both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. So it would be a parallelogram. And in the square, you can use either of the above reasons. There's so many reasons why a square is a parallelogram. A square is both a rectangle and a rhombus because it has four right angles, makes it a rectangle, and four congruent sides makes it a rhombus. So you know the five properties that a parallelogram has that I had you write out 5 times each and on a quiz. Those are all apply to these three figures. Plus they have extra properties. These three special parallelograms have special properties. So the first one is the diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. So here's a rectangle. You can tell by the four right angles. MT is congruent to HA. MT is congruent to HA. The diagonals are congruent. They're the same length. If this is 20, then this is 20. And because it's a parallelogram, they also would bisect each other. It'd be like 10 and 10 and 10 and 10. Because the diagonal, if a quad is a parallelogram, then its diagonals bisect each other. The next one, the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular. They form right angles. So I put a little box right here to show that these diagonals are perpendicular. They make four right triangles right here. And we're going to put a little perpendicular symbol. My computer wasn't working and wouldn't do perpendicular for me. So we're going to fill that in. Segment AC is perpendicular to segment BD. Makes a right angle right there. And then for a square, since it's both a rectangle and a rhombus, both of those are true. The diagonals of a square are both congruent and perpendicular. So SO is congruent to GD, and SO is perpendicular, upside down T, perpendicular to segment GD. So these are really easy problems that you're going to do. The examples, and your homework's really easy too. So you should all do it and upload it by tomorrow morning at 10. So if this is a rectangle, what kind of angle is this again? a right angle. So 3x equals how many degrees? 90. So x equals 30. And we're going to explain by saying a rectangle is a quad with 4 right angles. We're going to explain. And when it says explain, you write the definition or the property. And then this is congruent to this because the opposite sides of a rectangle are congruent if you measure them because it's a parallelogram. And if a quad is a parallelogram, its opposite sides are congruent. So we can set 15y equal to 20y minus 20. Add 20 to both sides. Subtract 15y from both sides. And y equals 4. Add 20 to both sides. So there's 20 over here with the 15y. Subtract 15y from both sides. So there's 5. And then y equals 4. And then the last example, or the next one, the rhombus. We know these sides are congruent because all 4 sides are congruent. A rhombus is a quad with 4 congruent sides. So that means 5x minus 15 equals 3x plus 3. Subtract 3x, we get 2x. Add 15, we get 18. X equals 9. And then this is pointing at the angles. What kind of angles are these? Are these consecutive angles or opposite angles? This one up here and this one down here. They're opposite angles. So remember they're all parallelograms. If a quad is a parallelogram, then its opposite angles are congruent. So 14y minus 10 equals 4y plus 90. So subtract 4y, add 10, and y equals 10. And then our last example is a square, which has so many things. The A is right here. It got moved over. Has so many things that are true about it. This is pointing at right here. And we all know that the diagonals of a rhombus are what? Perpendicular. A square is a rhombus. The diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular. Or you can just say the diagonals of a square are perpendicular, because that's true. As well, perpendicular is an upside down T. So 6x minus 6 is pointing to the 90. So 6x equals 96, x equals 16. And then it says CT, which is a diagonal, and AS, a diagonal. What's true about the diagonals of a square? They're perpendicular and they're what? What's the other thing that's true about them? They're congruent because it's a rectangle. The diagonals of a square, and I'll put rectangle in parentheses, are congruent. So that means 25 equals 3x minus 2, 27 equals 3x, x equals 9. Pretty easy problems to do, easy algebra problems to do. So I've already uploaded the worksheet and these notes, so you can write down the notes while you listen to the video, and then you can do the homework and upload that to me by 10 o'clock tomorrow. Have a great day. Thanks. Be safe.